Hi, welcome back to the channel if you're new here. My name is Brielle, and we are currently working on draft 2 of my new adult fantasy novel titled Unraveling. It is a fantasy book with an enemies to lovers romance and dystopian vibes. We're currently on draft 2. It's my first time ever revising a book, and we're continuing with the progress today. We're doing another revising writing vlog, of course, as I continue to trudge through the beginnings of draft 2. Here's where we're at. We've done the first 2 chapters. This is my little circle tracker that I use to track my progress. This is one of my favorite methods. I'm obsessed with it. So originally my goal for July was to finish this spread, to finish Act 1. My modified goal is to maybe get to like chapter 5. Today I want to try and tackle chapter 3. I got a tiny bit of a head start on it. If you saw my last vlog, I mentioned the fact that chapter 3 really needed to be like gutted and restructured because a lot of the things that did happen in chapter 3 have now been moved into chapter 2. So chapter 2 is a lot longer and just more in depth than it was before. So I did actually remove those pieces from chapter 3, and where chapter 3 is at now, I think it's like 700 words long. So it is like not even a full proper scene or chapter. It is like very bare bones at the moment and needs a ton of new material. So that's what we're going to be focused on today, one step at a time. Today we're going to try and fix chapter 3. I'm going to have to do a lot of drafting basically and essentially gut this scene, take a few pieces and really expand upon it, as well as maybe pull the beginning of the next scene into chapter 3. I don't know, we'll see. But a lot needs to change in these next few chapters. I think the most rewriting honestly is going to happen in this setup portion of the book in Act 1. That's where like I feel like I need the most drastic changes to scenes, and then hopefully getting into Act 2, a lot of what we have now can stay, even though I will have to write some new chapters in Act 2. There won't be as much like gutting and reworking on such a drastic scale, hopefully. Famous last words. So that is the plan. I really had a vision this morning of waking up at like 6, 7 a.m., getting to a coffee shop super early. Didn't quite happen, although I will say it's 9 and I'm like ready to go, which is good for me. That is like pretty good for me. So I want to go somewhere a little different today. There is this really cute half bookstore, half coffee shop that I am freaking obsessed with, that I've been to a couple times, and I have never worked there for a prolonged period of time. It's actually very difficult to get a table. Every time I go, every single seat is filled. Like, this is a popular destination for people to like do work, which I love because that's going to be like super motivating. Will I get a table? I don't know, but I'm willing to wait it out if I don't. I'm willing to wait it out if I don't. So we're gonna go on quite a little adventure this morning, go a lot further than usual. But I really want to get things started because there's been like a dissonance between the speed I want to be going and the speed I am going. And I think I just need to we need to like get to it. I did work on the book a little bit this week, which is something that I really want to be working on doing more, is working on the book during the week as well, the work week. And when I was rereading chapter 1 and 2, I was kind of like, okay, like this is a lot stronger than draft 1, and that was the little bit of like reassurance that I needed of, okay, like we are really improving this manuscript and draft 2 is gonna be good. So all right, let's go to this cafe. I'm very excited. Okay, so I just filmed actually another video because I'm going away next weekend to visit Seattle. I'm moving soon, if you didn't know. So we're going to visit and apartment hunt and all of that. So I'm not gonna be here next weekend, so I had to film a video for next week. But anyway, let's talk a little bit about earlier today, the writing session we had. Also, I did get boba, obviously. How could I not? I'm obsessed, I'm addicted, it's a whole thing. So writing earlier, we did get a decent, solid pass of chapter 3. It is no longer so skeletonal. It still definitely needs some love and some help, but it went from being a 700 word chopped up, very messy scene that still needed more cut out because there were other pieces that weren't working or weren't relevant anymore, to I think being a little bit over 1,000 words and better. Not perfect, but better. I want to give it potentially one more pass before I move on to chapter 4, but at least I feel pretty clear about the structure of the scene. There's one moment where I think I want to still see the characters talk about something less plot relevant, or at least less directly really plot relevant because basically this scene is our introduction to our main character's sister, and they are supposed to be like besties, get along super well, like all that. And as of now, we see hints of the dynamic of their relationship, but we don't really see them like getting into it in terms of like just talking about a fun topic. And granted, they're in like a horrible dystopian society, so what sorts of fun topics do they really have to talk about? It's a fair question. So I don't quite know what's going to go there. Therefore, maybe it's the type of thing that I will revisit since I'm not clear on what I want them to talk about yet. I was thinking of having them like talk about boys, but like boys is not really like a thing in their lives, or at least not in our main character's life. So I feel like it might feel like it's out of left field if they're like gossiping about boys when that's clearly just like not their vibe. But for now, at least the scene has improved and I was able to like cut out everything that didn't make sense, add in more dialogue, which was desperately needed because the scene was pretty exposition heavy, honestly, as it was because there was so little dialogue. So I'm trying to balance that out more. I think there's still quite a bit of info dumping going on in the scene, so that needs to be like further diluted, and maybe some of it is quite literally just not necessary. Like maybe we don't need to hear as much about Margot as a person, at least not at this point. Margot is the sister. I don't know if I mentioned that. I'm trying to find the right balance, and I'm trying to do a little bit more show don't tell and show Margot's personality rather than saying her character traits in the chapter, which is still something that I feel like needs a tiny bit of work, because also Margot is at like a bit of a low point in her arc, so she's acting a bit out of character in this scene, which is a little tricky because we're being introduced to her. So if I don't say the fact that she's like kind of not normally like this in this scene, how are we gonna know Margot's typical character? I need her to be acting a little different in this scene to justify what the main character then goes to do. So it's tricky, is basically the gist, but I'm pleased with what we got done at the cafe. It was a very productive session and the atmosphere was really good. I was a little bit nervous I wasn't gonna be able to focus because it is, wow, I just talked so fast. That like shocked me. I was a little bit nervous that I wasn't gonna be able to focus. There we go. Because that place gets crowded. Like there's one big long table and then a few small tables, and literally people fill every single seat on the long table regardless of whether you know each other. Like I had two strangers on either side, like right next to me, and a bunch of strangers right across, and people just go there to work. Like it's a very common working place. I think people are doing like schoolwork. There were people working on creative things, which I find very inspiring when people are working on a variety of things around me and I can just be like, yep, here I am, just like also working, writing a book, like no big deal. Feel free to be impressed, guys. So I love that environment. We're gonna pick back up with working on the book tomorrow. Hopefully we will do one more pass of chapter 3 and potentially go into chapter 4. I think chapter 4 will actually need a lot less work. The scene that is primarily in chapter 4 I think is quite a bit stronger, although because I'm going to be scrapping an entire phone call scene from chapter 4, we might need to move a new scene into the chapter. A lot of like restructuring and like moving pieces is happening at this point in the process, so hard to say what chapters will and won't be intense, but at least the next scene is pretty clean, which is good. But I do want to take a moment to answer a few of your guys' questions. Let's do it. Okay, first question is, how long did you let Unraveling sit before starting on it again? So I didn't really let it sit very much. I did wait probably 2-ish weeks between finishing draft 1 and starting my reread. And that was because I was waiting for the printed copy of my book to come in the mail for me to annotate and read. So I guess I waited 2 weeks, but not by choice because I was waiting for something to come in the mail. But in terms of like how long actually was in between finishing draft 1 and starting draft 2, there was at least 2 months, probably more than 2 months, almost 3 months between that, where I was rereading, annotating, making notes, working on world building stuff, outlining, like doing a ton of stuff, which you can see documented in several vlogs that I made during that time. So there was a couple months between draft 1 and draft 2. Is there anything in the revision process that feels intimidating to you? Yes, everything. No, to be honest, the thing that is the most intimidating to me is line level revisions, line editing, which technically I don't have to worry about yet, but I'm starting to already think about because I am paying attention to those things even in draft 2. Yeah, line level editing is the scariest thing to me because it's where I feel the most challenged skill-wise, if that makes sense. My revising experience, my cleaning up of manuscripts or projects was so minimal. I had a lot more experience with ideas and coming up with plots and stuff. So I think just due to the fact that I lack experience when it comes to line editing, and I'm intimidated by trying to make it pretty and worrying that I don't have the ability to yet, that's the most intimidating part of revising to me. It just feels very vulnerable to really put like my current skill level out there on the table and be like, yeah, this is as good as I can do. This is the best sentence I could come up with. Like, that to me is very vulnerable and intimidating. Do you have any tips for speeding up the editing revision process? This has been something that I've really been struggling with because I feel like I'm moving so slow. But some of the things that I've been thinking about that I think I'm going to implement is, one, having concrete goals. That helped me a lot with drafting. I think it'll help me a lot with revising. Every day I set out to write, setting a goal for that writing session or that writing day and trying my very best to hold myself accountable to it. And then I would say, do what you can to stay in the project. I think you lose a lot of time when you have to bring yourself back into the book every single time you write because you're letting days, weeks pass between writing sessions. I've really seen that recently. If you're able to keep yourself in the headspace of the story and have ideas percolating in your subconscious and keep your writing muscles really like activated and in consistent use, basically if you're able to maintain some sort of consistent writing practice and stay more in the book, it's gonna make things go faster because, again, you're not reintroducing yourself to the project every time you sit down to write, and it will be much less intimidating to write knowing, well, I just wrote yesterday. Well, I just wrote this morning. So why can't I just open up the document again and keep going? It feels a lot less daunting that way. But at the end of the day, I think the revision process is kind of supposed to be a little slow, maybe a little grueling, and accepting that and knowing no part of writing a book is going to be fast unless you're like, I don't know, built different. Like, for the most part, for most people, writing a book is going to feel like a very long, difficult process. I think accepting that and like doing it anyway is something that I would really encourage, because even asking a question like, how do you speed up the process, to me says, one, either you don't have a consistent writing practice, which is totally fair. I'm trying to work on that too. Or two, maybe you're like trying to avoid the long, drawn out process of a book. And if we're being honest, sometimes a book does require long hours, a long process, lots of revising. So instead of asking yourself, how can I speed up editing? I would ask yourself, how can I be more consistent with editing? How can I build a consistent writing practice? How can I immerse myself in my story? Instead of focusing so much on the speed part, because you don't want to rush the process, you know? Okay, we'll pause on the questions there. More questions to be answered in our next revising vlog. I'm going to go eat some lunch. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Before we jump to tomorrow, I did want to give a quick critique services update. Thank you guys so much for your interest in my services. If you don't know, I'm offering manuscript critiques, where essentially I give you developmental feedback on your novels. So basically you send me your manuscript, a draft of your book, and I give you my feedback as a fellow writer and a reader on things that I think you can improve with your manuscript. The fall spots are actually filling up pretty quickly, but I do have a couple spots left. So if you want to book me for the fall to critique your manuscript, the link to that will be down below in the description, so feel free to check that out for more details. Also, I did receive a very exciting package a few days ago and I filmed me unboxing it, so I'm gonna insert that footage right now. Hi, I had no plans to vlog today, but I just got something very exciting in the mail and I had to capture it. So this wonderful girl, Ellie, reached out to me a few months ago saying that she was launching a writing journal and she wanted to send me one. So she has this, let me make sure I don't butcher it. So her brand is Dahlia Paper Company, and it's like a stationery for writers company, which is so freaking cool. She went all out, like the branded box. Oh my God. First off, before we even get into the journal, she sent all these lovely little like goodies, like cute little stationery pieces and postcards, which is just so cute. I love like little packages that include like fun little things like this. I guess this is my first PR package. This is very exciting. So cute. It says the Plancer Journal. I'm obsessed. I'm gonna take off these glasses because the glare is killing me. I was trying to protect my eyes from the blue light while I was on my computer, but the Plancer Journal, so cute. Little annotation tabs, cute little stickers. I'm losing my mind. And there's this cute little card that says, your writing content has been loved by us at Dahlia Paper Company. So cute. Gorgeous. I don't know how well you can see it, but it has Plancer Journal written right here in like, what is that, embossed? Oh my God, cool. So at the beginning it has a spot for your project name, and then you can put the dates of each draft, and then it has like a chapter by chapter breakdown so you can outline character growth arcs. relationships. This is so cool. So thank you, Ellie, for sending me this. I'll have the link to her shop down below. Definitely check out her planter journals. I think she released them in a few different colors. What an exciting moment. Thank you. Good morning, happy Sunday. I was about to bring you guys in here to make breakfast, but there's not a single breakfast food in this apartment right now, so maybe I'll go get some egg bites or something. Anyway, I'm about to start my day with a walk. I'm trying to put physical movement and good habits like at the very top of my priority list before writing, before YouTube, before all the things, which feels really good, and I'm just like rewiring myself to prioritize that. So that is the plan. But I guess we're gonna stop for some breakfast because it is looking pretty grim in the fridge right now. After the walk, I'm hoping we can go to a cafe and get some more words in this morning. I also do have the live stream that I'm doing with Lynn this evening, so at the very least we're going to be getting words later, but I do think we can probably fit in a cafe after this walk. So that's the plan. But first, I'm gonna go be a little active girl. Of any bright coffee shops. I'd be down. I like seeing new spots. Favorite things every day is when it gets to evening and I can justify putting a sweatshirt on. Okay, so the writing session at the cafe was good. I was working on chapter 4, so I'm trying to stick with this idea of working on a fresh chapter every day that I write, even if I'm not 100% happy with or done with the previous chapter, just so I can actually build some momentum and keep moving through draft 2. Yeah, so I started working on chapter 4. I'm really starting to move pieces around and I'm starting to get a clearer idea of what scenes are actually in this setup portion. In like a different vlog, I mentioned how I was cutting out phone calls, so there were 2 phone calls originally between her and the love interest that are now being replaced and also kind of combined into one scene. And I'm also fleshing out a couple other scenes in the setup, so things are changing in terms of the pieces that exist in Act 1. And I'm getting a little worried that it's a lot, but I can't tell if it's just because I've been in the weeds of it that it's feeling slow or like a lot to me. And maybe when I actually go back and read it, it still will feel very minimal. The thing is that this book does need to get longer, and I'm trying to flesh out more scenes and make them more substantial conversations where they actually talk through things and like there's actual back and forth. So that was my goal. So maybe I'm just in my head imagining that it's getting too weighed down, and in actuality that's how it needs to be to actually give some context to her relationships and her life before. Yes, we jump pretty quickly into the inciting incident and to the journey, but if we do not get at least a decent establishment for what is this society like, why is she so miserable, the arc is not going to be as impactful. So I feel like we need some of these bricks. I don't know, I'm lost. I think I need like to look at it with fresh eyes another day to really tell, but for now I'm going to continue with this plan that I have now, and I am about to write the scene that has converted from a phone call to a in-person scene. I have been able to, as I'm expanding some of these scenes, trickle in some more world building context, which is good because I think very little of that is on the page as it currently stood in draft 1. I do want to create a list of everything that's actually been like stated about the world and the world building so that I can know what's actually on the page and what large gaps need to be filled in. It's so tricky. It's like, how do I not info dump but make sure that I'm peppering this in? I don't know, guys. It's hard. I'm considering sending these first few chapters to my friend Amina because I was talking through with her on the phone like, I don't know if we need all these scenes, like what do you think? And she was kind of like, you should just send me the first few chapters. And I'm strongly considering doing that because Amina is a trusted friend of mine. I feel like I could just show her these rougher chapters to get at least some clarity to move forward on what does and does not have to be in the setup portion, what's confusing about the world building, what extra information do I maybe need, or what feels frivolous. I don't know. I am considering sending her some chapters, which is crazy because I didn't think that's something that I would want to do, but I feel like I'm having a really hard time viewing the material objectively. That being said, I should just go through and do like a read through of the chapters I've edited so far so I can get a solid idea for where we're actually at with the revised version and how the pacing feels in practice, just reading it like a reader. Anyway, those are all of my thoughts. I have about an hour until my live stream with Lynn, which I'm really looking forward to, in which we will hopefully finish a decent pass of chapter 4. Until then, I really have to practice for my singing lesson, so I'm gonna go do that. And then I'll check back in with you guys after the live stream. We'll do sort of some final thoughts. Hello, we are bringing back the photo booth updates to finish out this vlog. I didn't end up vlogging after the live stream, but it was so fun. I really enjoyed being on with Lynn, and I always love getting to chat with her. We had some great sprints. I wrote about 400 and something new words of material for chapter 4. I was pretty much drafting a completely fresh scene, so I was decently happy with that progress, and I was trying to be much more picky with this scene considering it's new material in draft 2, so I want it to be up to the draft 2 standards and not as sloppy as maybe a rough draft. So it was taking me a bit longer, but we made some good progress. The chapter is definitely not done, but considering how much work needed to be done to it, like a lot of work needed to be done to it, I'm pretty happy. That being said, we're gonna go ahead and end this vlog here. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you made it all the way to the end of the video, comment down below a moose emoji. I recently discovered the moose emoji and I'm obsessed. I'll see you next week. Thanks for being here. I appreciate you. And yeah, bye.